When it comes to limits on what you write, Anne's philosophy is there are none. Like, don't pay attention to, what you can or cannot do cost-wise, because that's going to limit your imagination.
We have to remember, and what writers need to remember, and our writers do remember, I'm so proud of our writers, our writing staff, is that the script is just the jumping off point. Even though it takes blood, sweat, and tears and about a month to do, now it goes to our crew, and they take it and they realize what we've written. And very often they say, what you've written is really not accurate or not possible or too expensive, and then we all start working together to get it so that then it goes on the stage and becomes another thing.
All right, guys, so tackling 419.
We're a very meeting-heavy show. We'll have an enormous amount of meetings to try to work out the logistical problems on the show, and we bring all the key department heads in, and we really do break down every step of the day to make sure that everybody knows at 10 o'clock this is where we're at 10:30 this is where we need to be. And if we fall behind, everybody knows how that it affects them and how it slides down the ladder.
This show is the right analogy to use as a feature because I'd say a lot of the elements required, meaning the size of the shots, the lighting involved with it, it's not your typical TV show. It's a very involved process of applying a lot of pressure to everybody constantly so that we're constantly moving.
There is an amazing group of people who work here. There are some incredibly smart people down there, and what they bring to the table is part of what has made this show what it is. And I think that it goes from Anne and the whole writing staff over in the other building. So when they sit down and come up with the idea and the story that we're going to tell, we take that and say, okay, let's get excited about the things that we can do in here. And all of these minds just sit down around a large table and talk about what we can do well.
We start out with a pattern budget at the beginning of the year. This is how much money the studio, the network gives us to make the show. And each department is allocated what we think they need to make it for the season. Now, certain shows might be heavy transportation one time and really light construction, or a better analogy would be, if it's a very heavy construction show, it probably means we're not going out and shooting that many locations. And so we borrow from Peter to pay Paul all the time. And, it all comes out of the same pot, but at the end of the year, we should have a zero balance.
And take your time in the beginning, guys. And camera, Candy.
Her heart suffered too much trauma. She died of cardiac arrest. Bullets will do that to you.
So we go from robbery to murder.
When I found out that Eagle was going to direct it, beside myself. I'm so excited. He's visually, I think, and I don't think this is an overstatement, he's a genius. I mean, he's really what has set a standard on the show of what we do visually. He's been a director of photography for us for 2 years, and this is his first directing gig.
It was a great experience to write this episode, and having been the DP here for a while, and knowing that my whole crew was behind me, supporting me, was a good feeling. There's absolutely a shorthand going on working with people on the show. It's a really tight group of people, and we got it down to a science. I mean, we do all this work in less than 12 hours a day. So there's a lot of things that don't need to be said because people know what the other one wants and so on.
You know what, I think for Eagle, this was a natural progression for him from DP to director because he is the one who visualizes everything. He's the one who gets what he wants on camera, and he makes real what the director's perception or imagination is for a whole show. So for him, he's got his team, he's got his crew, everybody already works like that with him and around him, and it just seemed so easy for him.
I mean, the thing about Eagle is that he has such a creative vision, literally and figuratively. I mean, he just sees the sort of map of CSI in a very beautiful way. So it was fun for us to have somebody new come in, and especially, well, someone we knew very well be new, because he would sort of shift us around and we'd go from different angles, and it just was a very creative episode. I think.
You know, you always appreciate a director that comes in and knows what they want, and they know they're going to get it, and Eagle certainly doesn't lack for confidence. And, you know, to come along with the confidence he had, the preparation that it requires. And he came in, I thought he did a bang-up job. He was actually one of my favorite directors of the year.
All right, ladies. Everyone up! On your feet, now!
At the beginning of the show, our teaser, we open up, we're in a spa. And most spas aren't going to let us film there. So we essentially had to create a spa. Now, how do you create a spa that doesn't look like a really poor bathhouse? Our show, we want to make it as sexy as possible. So when scouting locations earlier this year, we came across this location that had this phenomenal pool that was on the bottom level of their house. And they had all these cool little rooms off to the side. And when this script came across my desk, there's no doubt that that's what we should be filming there.
We needed a spa that probably doesn't really exist. Something so great and so gorgeous and so large that we actually thought outside the box a little bit and said, well, this is a house that we've looked at once before. And being it's actually a house we've shot before earlier this season, we shot the interior of, we actually turned away from seeing the back of the house because we already saw that once this year.
We always need to have unique locations for the show. One of it's just the kind of design directive of what our look is. The other is for this particular episode to create this opulent day spa. We found this great space, but you can't move in until 7 a.m. in the morning. None of the trucks can even be parked outside this, not for one single moment. So anything had to come in onto the property, the problem being not much driveway space at this property. How do you get this done? You know, how many people is it going to take the day or 2 days prior to start pre-rigging, meaning laying cable, getting equipment up into the spaces? And then when you're done, how many people is it going to take and how many hours is it going to take to get all this equipment off this property, back into your trucks, and to the next location you need?
Our show is about escape. Anna always says it's a roller coaster ride and you want to almost feel like you're falling out. And I think it was a little too safe and normal. You know, we wanted to blow it up to the next level. And so these three masked men come in and it's the same basic premise, but then we also jumped it up to the world of chop shops. And we thought, we haven't done a story about that. There's high-end cars are hot. And all the stuff that I found out really started, you know, a story just came from the research, you know, and they piece out a car in 2 hours.
Well, Chop Shop was scripted as a pretty gritty, kind of like a machine shop that these guys take cars into and chop them up. So we started looking for the down and out and kind of dirty, gritty spaces which you can find in boat yards. And so went down to the Port of Los Angeles and found an old, it's a marine. It is a chop shop for boats, if you will, but it's a legal chop shop for boats. Boats come in under disrepair and get repaired there.
Here's the pitch. Eagle and I spoke this morning, and just to kind of have a real action piece at the head and a real action piece at the tail of this thing. So rather than just having, you know, that frozen moment that you spoke of, we're low and wide on this front tire. Guy comes in with a pneumatic wrench, what have you, and starts spinning off the wheel. The moment he pulls the wheel, we go up. All this stuff separates, and I'm imagining that it doesn't separate any farther than it might if somebody was lifting it off the car. For 419, the challenge was to do the CSI shot where the Viper explodes when the camera reaches kind of an apex point, and we follow those parts down into the crates, which then get shipped off. Kind of the storytelling event of how a car gets stripped in the chop shop and then distributed to wherever they have, you know, their clients. My job with the shooting as directing this unit is we want to give the compositors and the CG artists as many components that are real photography as possible. That way, A, I'm not spending as much money, it's easier for the schedule, but most importantly, what we can shoot in the camera is going to look ultimately better than doing it entirely in the computer. So we want to provide them with as much information as possible. So we're going to go through probably 6 passes with this motion control crane, which is computer controlled, you know, pan, tilt, what have you. And then we're going to do a shot with the Viper that's complete. We'll do a shot with the Viper that has all the body parts missing. We'll do basically a naked frame, and then we'll ultimately get rid of that and have a clean pass with tracking points which will help them to exactly put in the CG parts where they need to.
It's pretty elaborate. It's something that happens in about 4 or 5 seconds. Takes a couple of weeks to create, because we've got to kind of go back to the bare bones and build the car, create the car to the car that we have here on set, match it to the camera that's shooting, and then line everything up perfectly so that all you're seeing is the magic of the stuff in camera, and not the hard work that would happen behind it.
Production's always going. So while you're prepping one, you're shooting another, and you might even find yourself in a situation where they're shooting down there in Long Beach this day, and we need just a quick POV of a buoy in the water. So you call them up, say, hey, if one of the cameras isn't being used right now, quick, grab this shot.
We probably have 40 shots a show at the end of the 8-day shooting schedule that is left behind for our insert unit or our visual effects unit to pick up. It's just in the time restraints of trying to film a show like this in a 12-hour day. There's certain shots that just bang for your buck ratio isn't worth it to have your high-priced crew there trying to get it, where you can reduce the crew to a minimal crew of maybe 15 people. You can get the really tight shots of somebody's hands, or somebody, reaching into their pocket, or close up on a wound. It just doesn't have to be that labor intensive.
The way I work with the second is that I give them we have our meetings. I give them a shot list, and there's the wish list. And in some cases, I even give them visual references to go by for what I'm looking for, and kind of send them off. And like when we're shooting at the spa, they were shooting next to us, so I could go back and forth and work with them.
My responsibility is to basically finish telling the story by picking up the pieces that are missing from first unit that they're not able to get to on the day, that we then recreate and fill in the gaps to help complete the episode.
The difficult parts of inserts are things like the little things like hairs and fibers can be really hard to see. You can see with the human eye, but the camera can't. So those things can be very tedious. But it's kind of refreshing, though, for us, because most of the shots we shoot actually make it into the episode. It's kind of nice to see the work go in.
The strength of the show is in a lot of areas. It's the 4th season. A lot of what people call kinks have been ironed out. But even I came in kind of the beginning of 3rd season last year, and it was already a machine that was up and running.
Our writers do such a phenomenal job on the show that when the script comes onto my desk, it's usually in just great shape and well thought out. So I know they're going to be action-packed. I know it's going to be, time-consuming, and that's what excites me about it.
I mean, you have to take your time factor into account when you attack your day. And you start by doing that in pre-production, when you build your day. You ask yourself, and you try to be as honest as you can with yourself, can I accomplish this much in one day? And you try not to set yourself up for failure by putting too much on. And you try to allow yourself enough time to pull everything off in a proper way and keep the visual style and the storytelling, everything intact. So sometimes, yes, we, just like in regular filmmaking, we do get into a bit of a time crunch, but I think most of the time we always pull out at the end.
The great thing about filmmaking, working in TV, call it what you will, every episode, 3 or 4 days, you're going to be going to some place you've never been to before, someplace completely new. It could be one of those days where it's a beautiful day outside, it's sunny, it's warm, you're shooting at a location where there's this expansive green grass, and when you call lunch, you got half the crew just kind of, lay down and pull the hat over their eyes to keep the sun off and just take a nap in the sun and, enjoy it, basically. Everyone here could be reporting to the same office day after day, and I think a lot of people can relate to how tedious that gets.